So I came across this story where a couple had just bought their first house. It was a 3-bedroom house. And somehow within about 5 minutes, one of those bedrooms was declared completely off limits and not by mutual agreement. Stick around till the end to hear my thoughts on this. So they've just moved in, which is already a big deal. First house, fresh start, all that energy of figuring out how you want to live. And the layout is pretty ideal. Their main bedroom, and then 2 spare rooms, which I don't know about you, but I love having a spare room. So naturally you'd think options. Office space, hobbies, maybe a guest room, maybe something shared. But the husband doesn't approach it like that. He just picks one and declares it his man cave. Gaming setup, TV, collectibles, the whole thing. Which, to be fair, isn't the problem on its own. Wanting your space is totally reasonable. It's what comes next. So when she asks, okay, what about me? His answer is interesting. He basically says she already has the rest of the house to decorate, which sounds fair for about half a second. And then you realise that shared spaces isn't the same as having a space that's actually yours, and she points that out. She says she'd like her own room too, something like an office or a hobby space. And his solution, she can share that other spare room, the one that also needs to function as a guest room. So now that room has to be her workspace, her hobby area, and the guest bedroom, while his room, completely private. No sharing, no compromise. And at one point, he even explicitly says this is his space, which kind of says everything. And you can feel the imbalance starting to take shape, because it's not about rooms anymore. It's about access, boundaries, and respect. So, she draws a pretty clear line. If he gets a fully private room, she should get one too, which feels logical. But he pushes back, says that's not fair, because she gets to decorate the rest of the house, which is absolutely not the same thing. And that's where the logic really breaks down, because decorating a living room that you both use is not the same as having a door you can close and say, this is mine. So she holds that point, but he doubles down. Apparently brings up that his friends all have man caves and their wives don't complain. And that's always a risky argument, because now you're comparing your relationship to others and essentially telling your wife she's not as good as the other wives. And instead of softening, he's already acted on it. The room is set up and done. So she offers a compromise. Split the spaces. Make both rooms spare rooms and dual purpose. His stuff in one, her stuff in the other, and guests can use either, which actually sounds balanced. But he still refuses. Says his room needs to be purely his, no sharing. So she mirrors that. Says fine, then the other spare room is purely hers, and there's no guest room. Guests have to stay somewhere else. And now suddenly it's a problem. Now he wants a guest room. Now it matters. And that's where the tension really lands, because the question becomes, why does shared space only apply to one of them? And this feels less like a fight about rooms and more like a mismatch in how they see fairness. Because on paper, it's simple. 2 spare rooms, 2 people. You'd think the easiest solution is one each, or both shared. But what he's really asking for is a private space for himself and a flexible, shared, multi-purpose space for her, and then trying to frame that as equal, which it's not. And I think that's why it escalates, because she's not saying that he can't have a man cave. She's just saying, okay then, I want the same. And why shouldn't she? Why is there this understanding that the man needs his own solitude space and the woman doesn't? But he's trying to justify why he should get a space and she shouldn't. And the fact that the guest room becomes important only when it threatens his setup shows the unfairness of this whole situation. And this is one of those situations where the solution isn't actually complicated. It just requires both people to agree that the same rules apply to both of them. Either they both get private space, or they both share the space. And comparing this to other people and their setup, that's just plain wrong. You don't know the full extent of someone else's relationship. And just because one person may be happy with their setup, doesn't mean you have to mirror it and expect your wife to be happy with it. There's also the obvious double standard here. He wants something, but doesn't think that his wife deserves the same. And that, my friends, is where resentment starts. So my verdict is she is not the asshole here. He is. But what would you do here? Do you stand your ground and claim your own space too? Or do you compromise just to keep things smooth? And more importantly, who should get their way? The wife or the husband? Let me know. Thanks for judging that one with me on Am I the Arsehole Bit Zen. Let's see if your verdict changes next time.